Hi everyone, welcome to the installation and setup lecture. Before we can continue with all the awesome technical material and content and actually start coding, we need to get your environment set up first. However, if you've already taken some technical courses, or maybe you've already taken some of my own courses, you may already have what we actually need. So I want to quickly go over just in general what we actually need to be able to do, and if you're able to do these four main ideas, you may be able to just skip this installation lecture entirely. So let me quickly describe what you should be able to do by the end of this install and setup lecture. First, you're going to need to have access to your command line either through the command prompt in Windows or terminal in macOS or Linux. And you pretty much already have that built in. You just need to know where it is. Then, you should have some sort of text editor, such as Atom, Sublime, Notepad++, Visual Studio, etc. We're going to be using and installing Atom for this course. Something I want to make very, very clear is if you're an experienced developer and you already have your preferred development environment, maybe you really love Sublime or you really love Visual Studio, please feel free to use it. Don't feel constrained to Atom. We just happen to use it for this course because it's open source, but really you have full freedom as far as what editor you want to choose. All the code we do here, it's going to work on any editor. Once you have a text editor, then we just need to install Python. We don't use Python immediately. We're going to learn about HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap first in the crash courses. Then we'll touch upon Python. And then lastly, you need to be able to install Python libraries through either a conda install or a pip install. And we actually provide a requirements.txt file that you can easily run in one simple one-line command to create an environment that has all the libraries we use in this course. Okay, so here I have some timestamps because maybe you don't need everything we just covered in that list, but you may want some of it. So look at this slide and then go to the timestamp for what you need. If you need all of it, then just continue watching and come along with us for this entire lecture. But in general, we're going to set up Python. We're going to set up Atom, which is our text editor. We're going to show you how to add a terminal to Atom. So there's a little plus button you can click and have a terminal directly in Atom. Then we'll show you how to add plugins to Atom to make your life a little easier when you're editing text. And then we'll also show you how to stylize Atom, things like adding particular color schemes to Atom. And then finally, at the end, we'll show you how to create an environment for Flask. Okay, let's get started. All right, here we are at the anaconda.com/download page, and it may look slightly different for you as far as styling is concerned, but there should be three main links, one for Windows, one for macOS, and one for Linux on this page. Anaconda is going to come with lots of data science packages, so that's why it's a distribution. It also comes with package management as well as environment management with Conda, so that's a tool we're going to be using as well. So go ahead and click on the operating system that's relevant to you. For Windows, you're going to want to install the Python 3 version, and I recommend the graphical installer. There's a 64-bit version and a 32-bit version. That depends on your computer. Then for macOS, if you're on macOS, I would also recommend doing the graphical installer here. So go ahead and download that graphical installer. And if you're on Linux, there is an installer right here for you for 64-bit as well as an installer for 32-bit. Okay, so once you've downloaded that actual installer, in order to receive instructions on how to download it, after you click on whatever your relevant operating system is, you should notice that there's a link here, how to install Anaconda. Go ahead and click on that link, and it will take you to docs.anaconda.com/anaconda/install, and then /your operating system. So here we have the instructions for installing on Windows, and for most of these, it's quite straightforward, especially for the graphical installers. You're just clicking along. The only thing I want to clarify is as you go along, you'll notice that there's an advanced installation option set. And this is going to ask you if you want to add Anaconda to my path environment variable. If you click on this, it will turn red and say not recommended. We personally recommend clicking on that and adding Anaconda to your path environment variable. That way you can actually call Python and Conda at your command line. So again, we highly recommend that you add Anaconda to my path environment variable. That way you can call Python at your command line. So even though it says not recommended, go ahead and check that box anyways. You'll see the text turn red and then hit install. So again, if you're ever asked to add Anaconda to my path environment variable, make sure you select that option. Okay, so that's the option for Windows. Again, if you click on here for any of the other operating systems, such as Mac OS, and click on how to install Anaconda, it will take you to the Mac OS graphical install instructions page, which is right here. Again, essentially you're just following along. And again, if it ever asks you to add Anaconda to your path, go ahead and select yes to that, even if it says it's not recommended. For Linux users, it's not going to be a graphical installer. If you click on how to install Anaconda, It's basically just going to be a bash command to wherever you happen to have downloaded that sh file. Okay, so that's the very basics of downloading Anaconda. Once you've downloaded Anaconda, you should be able to run Python at your command line after you've finished the installation process. So let's go ahead and show you what that should look like. Okay, we're going to quickly show you how to run Python. This is going to be a confirmation that you've already downloaded and gone through the installer for Anaconda. All we need to do here is open up our command line. For Windows users, what you're going to do is search for CMD on your computer, and that will open up your command prompt. If you're on macOS or Linux, you can search for terminal, and that will open up your command line. Let's do this. I'm on a Windows computer right now, so I will search for CMD and then open up my command prompt. All right, here I am at my command prompt. If you're on a macOS or Linux, you should be at your terminal. In order to check that Anaconda installed correctly, directly into your command line, type the word Python, hit enter, and then you should see Python, the version number, and then some sort of clarification of Anaconda. And once you've done this, then you've successfully installed Anaconda and Python onto your computer. And if you want to keep testing things out, you can print something like hello, hit enter, and you have hello. Hopefully you've already worked with Python by the time you're reaching this course, since this is a course for more experienced Python users. I'm going to quit out of this, and we're ready to go. Remember that for basic command lines, in order to actually change directories, you can use the cd command, and this works in either macOS, Linux, or Windows. To go back up a directory, you just say change directory ... and that will move back up a directory. To move forward into another folder, you can say cd, and then the name of the folder. So for example, I can move back into that folder where I was by using cd. That's really the main command you need to know for this course, just changing directory. That way you can run your Python script wherever it's located. Let's now move on to setting up our environment, since we've already set up Anaconda and Python. All right, now let's set up our development environment. In this course, we use the Atom text editor. If you already have your preferred development environment, such as Sublime or PyCharm or any other number of IDEs that are available, feel free to stick with those. As long as you can run a .py script at your command line, you're pretty much good to go, and you can skip this part of the lecture. If you do want to explore following along with us in this course with the Atom text editor, keep watching and go to atom.io, and let's show you how you can install Atom and set up the plugin as well as the terminal command line there. Okay, here I am at atom.io. You should notice that somewhere on the screen there's going to be a download button. It's going to automatically detect your operating system, and you can just click here on this download, and it should download some sort of executable installer file, and then you'll just double click that, follow all the defaults, and install Atom. It's a simple text editor, comes with a lot of really useful features, especially if you're a big GitHub user. Atom's open source and it was created by GitHub, so that's one of our reasons for choosing it for this course. As I mentioned, you're free to use any platform you like. Now you also notice there's packages and themes. So packages are basically other packages that can help you work with Atom, things like Python autocomplete, so we'll be using those as well. Themes are things that can help you change the appearance of Atom, such as font or coloring. So you can do that all within Atom as well. So there's packages and themes. Go ahead and download and install Atom onto your computer, and then let's open it up and show you how you can install plugins and packages. All right, once you've downloaded and installed Atom, following along with the defaults for the graphical installer, you should see something like this when you open Atom. However, you may notice that my font or coloring is a little different than what you see as the defaults. And that's because I've customized Atom to my liking. So let's show you how you can do the same for your installation. You'll just come to File, and then go down where it says Settings, and you should see the core settings open up. And you'll notice you have here Packages, Themes, and then Install, as well as Updates. So packages are things that help you actually work better with whatever programming environment or programming languages you're using. So I have autocomplete Python, which we're going to be using during this course, and we'll show you how to install it in just a second. Themes, that's going to be things like colorization or syntax themes. So I have Atom Material and OneDark as my user interface theme and as my syntax theme, so you can copy and use those as well. Then you have updates. Once you've installed packages or themes, you can update them, and then you have install. So go ahead and come to install, and then we need two main packages. Go ahead and search for Python with packages selected here. It's going to search packages for Python, and then you'll eventually see somewhere at the very top autocomplete Python. And I've already have it installed, so you don't see the install button here, but you're going to see something like this install button. So go ahead and install autocomplete Python. As I'm coding along in this course, you'll notice a little bit of a drop-down selection that helps you autocomplete your Python functions or Python commands. That's the package that allows me to do that. The next package you'll probably want is a terminal package. So go ahead and search for terminal with packages selected. And the one we like to use is platformio-ide-terminal. And again, install this package. What this allows you to do is once you've installed this, if you click here on this plus button, it will open up a new terminal inside of Atom. That way you can call Python here right from inside of Atom without having to change anything. So I can quit here, and then what we're going to be doing is we're going to say Python and then be running scripts inside of Atom as such. What I want to point out is for Windows users, by default, it uses the PowerShell, and usually the PowerShell has issues with the Anaconda installation. So what you're going to want to do is after you've installed the Platformio IDE terminal, what you should do is, especially if you're on a Windows computer, edit this so that instead of using your PowerShell by default, it uses your command prompt by default. Again, this is only for Windows users. It's a very quick fix. You just come to Packages and either search for Terminal or scroll down till you'll find Terminal. Remember, you already installed Terminal at this point. Click on Settings, and then somewhere along this, you should see Shell Override. What you're going to do is write this command right here. You're going to want to have it point to C Windows System32 cmd.exe, because by default it's going to point to PowerShell. Again, this is only for Windows users. If you're on Mac OS or Linux, it's going to automatically point to your terminal and you shouldn't have any issues. Alright, so that's the shell override, and that's an important step for Windows users using the terminal inside of Atom. The last thing I want to point out is editing colors and themes. As I mentioned, if you come over to the core settings and click on themes, I'm using Atom Material and One Dark as my syntax theme. If you ever want to install those, you just come to install, click on themes, and then search whatever themes you want, such as One Dark, hit enter, and you can see the One Dark UI that I have installed. So that's an option for you. A lot of times you can play around. If you like a light setting, you can do that as well. If you like a darker setting, you can do that. And if you Google search more, Atom actually has the ability to put custom CSS scripts, so you can color this however you see fit. Okay, that's really all there is to Atom. The main things here, we're just installing it, setting up Python autocomplete, setting up this terminal so you can call it at Atom, and showing you how to install themes and syntax themes. All right, now that you've installed Anaconda and Python to your computer, it's time to set up the environment. Now technically, it's optional to set up a virtual environment with the Conda command line tool. A virtual environment basically allows you to create a version of Python and certain library installations on your computer that will hold that actual versioning of the pip installed libraries. That way, you don't need to worry in case Dash has an upgrade later on into the future. You're going to be able to run our nodes securely and make sure they work in your virtual environment. So we're going to be using pip install to install the required libraries. You can use pip install with or without that virtual environment. However, we do recommend using that virtual environment. That way you basically have a container that can hold the specific versions of Dash, and you can play around with future versions of Plotly and Dash in a separate virtual environment. So for convenience, we've already created a requirements.txt file that you can use. This requirements.txt file is essentially just a list of libraries to install with pip, so it'll be really easy to use that at your command line to just have a single line that installs all the libraries we'll be using. In order to actually use that requirements.txt file at the command line, you're going to need to cd or change directory at your command line to wherever you saved the unzipped version of the course notes or files. So make sure you've already downloaded the unzipped version of the course notes files. So usually we provide them as a zip file. You'll download them, unzip, and then there should be a requirements.txt file in that actual folder that was unzipped. So let's go to our command line, find that requirements.txt file, and show you how you can create a virtual environment and then easily pip install all the libraries required for the course. Okay, here I am in my downloads folder. I've already downloaded the Flask bootcamp.zip file from the course overview lecture, which is a resource there. If you're wondering how you get this .zip file, please go back and watch the course overview lecture. We explain it all there. It's also linked as a resource in the FAQ lecture. Once you have this .zip file, you're going to need to unzip it. You can use any program you want to extract or unzip this. So I'm on Windows, I'll just click Extract All. If you're on Mac OS, there's something called the Archive utility, which will automatically extract this. Okay, so once we've extracted that, I'm going to fast forward in time. And here, underneath my extracted Flask Bootcamp folder, I have another folder called Flask Bootcamp. So you can see it's kind of a double nested naming scheme. And we have all the folders for the course in order. So we start off with the HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap. We have some command line options here for text, HTML and Crash Course, CSS, etc. And everything's numbered in essentially the order you would take it in the course. So if we come back here, then we have the Python sections, Python level 1, level 2. Then we get into Flask basics, template basics, etc., and so on. At the very bottom, you can see a requirements.txt file. If you double click on that, whoops, not rename it, just double click and open it, you'll see it's essentially a list of Python libraries such as Flask or Flask login, and then the particular version number. What we're going to do is we're going to create a Flask environment and then install all these requirements into that environment. That way, when you activate your environment, you can have the exact same libraries and code that we did when we were developing this course. And what that means is you're going to have an environment where we guarantee that our .py scripts will work. So you can always use our .py scripts with that environment to make sure and double check in case you ever get a problem with your code. So this is really for your benefit. So in case you ever have any issues, all you need to do is activate our environment and run our .py script correctly, and it's guaranteed to work. So let's get started and actually show you how you can create an environment and set up the requirements. To do this, you're going to need to go to either your terminal or your command prompt, depending on what your operating system is. I'm on Windows, so I'll go to my command prompt. So what I need to do is cd into downloads, and then I'm going to change directory into Flask Bootcamp. And in my case, because of the way I unzipped it, I need to cd one more time into Flask Bootcamp. And remember, you should always be checking this against the file path where you just saw in your Windows Explorer or your Finder on Mac OS. And then what we're going to do here is confirm that our requirements.txt file is there. So I'm going to type dir because I'm on Windows. If you're on Mac OS or Linux, type ls. And when you do this, you should see a list of all those folders we were just talking about, as well as the requirements.txt file. Now that I know I'm in the right location, it's time to create my environment. I do this at the command line by typing conda create -n, and then whatever the name of the environment I want. Keep in mind, if you already have existing environments, this name needs to be unique. So I will call this my new Flask env, and then I'm going to say space, Python, and I'm going to set Python equal to 3.6. At the time of this recording, Python 3.7 is not released yet, so we're just going to use 3.6. We'll hit enter. And what's going to happen is Conda is essentially going to ask you, hey, you want me to set up these new packages for Python 3.6 in this environment? So I type Y for yes, I hit enter, and then it's going to set everything up for me. Okay, this may take a little bit of time, just a couple of minutes at most, and we're going to fast forward in time until this is done. All right, so all of that just finished installing. I've gone forward in time, and then once that's all done installing, we should be able to activate our environment. If you're on Mac OS or Linux, you're going to type out source, activate, and then the name of your environment. If you're on Windows and you're using the command prompt, you don't need to type out source, you just need to type out the word activate. It was my new Flask env. I'm going to hit enter, and if you successfully activated your environment, then you should be able to see in parentheses some indication saying, hey, right now you're working inside your environment. Perfect. Now what I want to do is install all the libraries in that requirements.txt file into my new environment. The way I can do this quite easily is by saying pip install -r and then requirements.txt. Make sure you're able to autocomplete by just hitting tab requirements.txt. If you're not able to tab autocomplete that, it means you're in the wrong directory or your requirements.txt file isn't in that directory, so you need to change directory until you're in the correct one. So then hit enter, and this is going to automatically install all the Flask libraries we use in this course. Pretty sweet, huh? Okay, let's forward in time until that's ready to go. Once that's done installing all those libraries, you can test it out quickly by just typing out Python, hitting enter, and then type out import Flask, hit enter, and if you don't get any error, that means Flask was successfully installed using the requirements.txt file and you're good to go. All right, we've finished setting up everything and now we're ready to go and continue on with the course. If you got stuck on any of these parts, please make sure you review the video carefully, and if you're still confused and you can't find your solution on Stack Overflow, then just post to the Q&A forums and we're happy to help you out there. Make sure you also do a search in the Q&A forums because it's very likely that other students have already probably asked and have answered similar questions. Thanks, and we'll see you at the next lecture.